The Kimber KDS9C. Let's check it out. The Kimber KDS9C. Kimber's been in business since 1979, and for the past 44 years they have been producing 1911s, and really high quality 1911s. They went through a couple of years where they had some quality control issues, but they got through it, and they've really stepped up their production. They make some of the best looking 1911s and all their firearms. So they also have an extensive line of revolvers that's some of the best on the market, and to me, some of the most underrated. But the KDS9C is a 1911 with a 15 round mag capacity. It's in 9mm. It compares very closely to the Wilson EDC 9C, which is about twice the price. And honestly, right now, 2011s have been the huge hit with that polymer frame and then with an aluminum top half. A lot of people are really liking the 2011 style. But if you want to go a little more classic and still get all the advantages of a 2011, the KDS9C checks off a lot of the boxes. And I want to give a big thank you to Kimber for sending the KDS9C for this review. And guys, I've been really anticipating this one since I first saw it at NRA 2023. This really takes the 1911 and brings it up to modern standards with that 15+1 mag capacity. The Kimber KDS9C, 9mm. It's an aluminum frame pistol with a stainless steel slide. This is a 1911 that's honestly double stacked. Now that's real simple, and there are a lot of advancements over that, but that's pretty much what we have. And one of the things I think is really funny is over the years we started out with the all steel frames, then we went to the aluminum frame to reduce weight, and then we went to polymer, and for the past 30 years we've had polymer frame striker fire pistols of all different sorts, and we're starting to come back to a lot of the not only aluminum frames but even the steel frame models, especially for those that are wanting to compete or just like to take a full-size gun to the range. Because we live in the golden age of firearms, we're getting more choices than ever before. And I'll tell you honestly, the KDS9C is refreshing. The 1911s are as popular today, if not more popular, than they ever have been. Part of that is because they served with the U.S. military from 1911 to 1985, replaced by the Beretta M9. And again, the SIG M17. They went from 45 to 9mm, and you know, those are great handguns, but there's something about the nostalgia and just the proven design of the 1911 that makes it very appealing. One of the big downsides is a single stack magazine, so it's just 7 to 8 rounds of 45, it's about 10 rounds of 9mm, and 9mm has surpassed sales for your 1911 over 45 ACP. One thing about single action is that it produces a really good trigger pull. With 1911s, you can get some of the greatest trigger pulls possible because of the simplicity. And then the balance of a 1911. First off, it has that 17-degree grip angle, which is the most natural. I mean, everybody compares different firearm grips with the 1911 grip angle. But here you're getting it. So 1911 grip angle, but it's really a thin grip. It's very balanced. And me personally, I've been shooting 1911s all my adult life. In fact, used to compete with IPSC matches using the 1911. That was the gun. And so I kind of cut my teeth on the 1911. And honestly, even if you're a big fan of the polymer striker fire pistols, I think having a 1911 in your collection kind of opens up a different world in a sense. But because of that, and because it's so popular, it's really nice to see an option that gives us more of a full, capable handgun for home defense or carry or self-defense. And that's where the Kimber KDS9C comes in. Now let's go ahead and make sure the gun is unloaded. In fact, all these guns have been safety checked, but I just want to go ahead and visually check, and you should always do that. All right, we've got one of the Bull Armory 2011s. With the 2011 handguns, this has really kind of changed the market. You have that full capacity, 15, 17 rounds, and STI kind of got that going. Polymer shell, aluminum frame, and then Staccato, of course, came from STI. And those are really high dollar firearms. I mean, they're really good quality, and it takes the 1911 and it really just ups the mag capacity. And yet it still is ergonomic. It's not too fat, and I think we've gotten to where with the polymer frame striker fire pistols, we've become more and more accustomed to that thicker grip. With the KDS9, this is an all aluminum, and you still have the 1911 controls, you have the 1911 feel to it. And yet it's not as thick really as your Staccato or any of your 2011s like this Bull Armory. And this Bull Armory is an exceptional 2011 for about half the price of the Staccato. But this really kind of brought this into that 1911 with the double stack, and that was what is so appealing. And so really, while these two have a lot of the same capabilities, they shoot and feel totally different. So what we have is a 4.09 inch barrel. It is fully fluted. We'll look at it when we disassemble it. It is stainless steel. One thing it does have that's really nice is it has a 20-degree crown. It is a deep dish. I mean, it really flares that barrel out. You have really good fitment with the barrel and the slide. Here we have our guide rod. We're going to look at that. Also, we have this bull nose that kind of comes down, and it comes at an angle, which, is a little bit different than just the flat front of your 1911. We have fiber optic front sight, and we have a fully adjustable rear sight that's blacked out with serrations. We are optics ready. There are optics cuts. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. And then we have serrations along the top of the slide. Of course, that just cuts down on some glare. And our serrations, they're not super deep, but they're definitely easy to grab. And really the tendency is now gone to have super deep. In fact, I think I've heard subterranean, kind of serrations. But this has some really effective serrations, and then here at the top they actually come over to this angle on the top. Now on the 1911 it just comes up and it's rounded off, flat side, and that's one of the things they've cut this out, so it really lessens the weight of the slide itself. You can see the frame, it's just got that beautiful Kim Pro finish, and that's one of the things about Kimber, is the finish on their firearms is excellent. Anytime I have a Kimber out, I'm really pleased with it visually. Now, Kimber did go through a couple of years there where they had some problems. Their QC kind of went down. They had to really struggle, and they fought to get back the Kimber reputation because it did suffer for a little while. But honestly, in fact, I've talked to the guys at Kimber at length, and they have really brought things back to where what made Kimber really great in the first place. The beaver tail is well fitted even though it's pinned. A lot of people hate the grip safety. I mean, they just hate it. And that was a requirement when the U.S. military adopted the 1911. And then it just stayed with the 1911. It was part of the design. For me personally, I really like the grip safety because it makes this an extremely safe pistol. And what I mean by that is that here we have our standard grip safety. And so if this is not depressed, you have to depress this to pull the trigger. So let's say I have my hammer in the rear position, I forgot to put my safety on, and I accidentally hit my trigger. Well, it's not going to fire unless I passively grip my gun, which I'm doing anyway, and then the trigger's pulled and the hammer will fall. With the KDS9, we can put up our safety, and yes, it's a good safety. But if that safety happens to come down, the grip, even without touching the grip safety, it can fire. Just makes the 1911 just extremely safe. And to me, because of that little grip safety, it's passive and you don't even know it really. Now, my buddy Robbie Wheaton disables his grip safeties because his hands are so large, sometimes he doesn't quite activate the grip safety. So there's definitely some advantages to not having a grip safety, but for me personally, I like to have the grip safety. But it's not a deal breaker if it doesn't have it, because we've got our standard frame safety. Now it has what they call the cross hatch serrations or texturing, and it's front and back strap. And you know, it's not super aggressive like you find with a lot of handguns. And then you have it also along the grips. Now these are G10 grips, and they have some natural texturing to them anyway. But you grip the gun with the front and the rear serrations. The grips are actually a bonus. And this is really where you get your power between these 2 points. Honestly, at the range, it didn't feel slick, but it does feel very comfortable. That 17-degree grip angle, bring it in, get a good solid grip on it. I mean, a lot of guys really like it super aggressive. Me personally, I don't really mind either way. As long as I feel like I've got a good confident grip on it, I'm fine. Now here we have more of what they call the bob. And a lot of 1911s, they've done that to where they've taken the mainspring housing and they've just bobbed off the end. And it actually fits in your hand a little more natural. There's not a sharp edge. The magazine release, it's been a little bit extended, but not enough to really get it out there too far, and it is switchable to the other side. And that's one of the things that the standard 1911 does not have. You can't switch the magazine release. And then we have an undercut right here. That makes it really nice to have that little bit because it gives you an area to put your hand and to get it as high up on the gun as you possibly can. Standard 1911 trigger guard, no accessory rail or pick rail. Some guys are not going to like that. Me, for personally, I like it very clean, especially your 1911 style pistols. That's one thing that they may actually add an addition. They have that on a number of their standard 1911s. But for me personally, the 1911, I just like the way it looks. It doesn't add a large piece at the end, but again, you don't have the option of light. Now the hammer is skeletonized, and it's more of a square commander style hammer. And you have your serrations here, really easy to bring back with your thumb. And so that really helps to be able to grip it and to be able to cock it. The optics plate is actually aluminum, and you can see that it's really more the same color as the frame. And they make adapter plates that will fit the Shield RMSC and the Holosan K models, the real narrow models, which I like the thinner model because the 1911 slide is really thin. But one thing about that is that you have to order a separate plate for it, and you have to order from Kimber. It is not included. It does include the rear sight, and it does actually have suppressor height sights that go along with it, even the front sight. So when you purchase that from Kimber, you actually end up with sights as well as the adapter plate. One thing also you'll notice is that the extractor, there's a pin instead of the standard configuration of the 1911 extractor that goes all the way back to the back of the slide. And here you can see it, that's the extractor right there, and it fits down through it and it comes out right at the back of the chamber. But with this one, we have it directly in. Now you'll notice also there's no screws anywhere in the adapter plate, and you get to them under the slide. There's a couple of screws that hold this in, and you know, it's not a big deal to change out. And two, it makes it just a little more pleasant as far as the appearance. So let's go ahead and make sure the gun is unloaded. Again, we're going to check the trigger pull action. Now we have an adjustment screw that's in there so you can adjust your over travel. Here, a little bit of take up, just a touch of creep that's almost imperceivable, and then a nice crisp break. Reset right there. Audible, tactile. And Kimber says that it's 3.5 to 4.5 pounds set at the factory. Okay, let's check the trigger pull weight. We're using the Feather River Sports trigger pull gauge. This is manual. I just have misplaced my Lyman trigger gauge. Both are from Brownells. Looking at just over 4 pounds, about 4 pounds, 2 ounces. And we're looking at about the same weight. So just over 4 pounds. And weight on the KDS9C, 28.19 ounces. I want to give a big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA, one of the #1 suppliers of ammunition in the country. And it's very consistent shooting, and we really appreciate Fiocchi. Also, we want to thank Lula Loaders for saving our thumbs and making these mag loads really easy. Guys, I'm a big 1911 fan, but one of the big limitations is the single stack magazine. 8, 10 rounds with a 9mm compared to 15, 17 rounds in a comparable polymer frame pistol. And lightweight, easy to carry. But one of the things about a 1911 is it's very natural. That grip angle is one of the best. The trigger pull with a single action 1911, hands down, it's the best trigger pull on the market. When you incorporate that with an aluminum frame and then a 15+1 magazine, this gets very competitive. And to be honest with you guys, there's so many different polymer frame options. It's nice to see an aluminum gun. We've had those over the years, we're still making them. But with the 1911 bringing that together with that high capacity, it's just a great option for carry. Now, Wilson made their EDC 9, but it's twice the price. And side to side, they are very comparable. One thing about the Kimber, it's just super slick to pull back. It's very solid in your hand. The stippling on the front and back straps, the G10 scales, and again, the 15-round magazine. Just has that 1911 feel to it. And really, even though it's an aluminum frame, it shoots very well. It doesn't jump in your hand. Of course, it is 9mm, but it just has a very flat shooting feel to it. A lot of that has to do with the grip angle being just so natural. The fiber optic front sight really complements the black rear sight. And then, of course, this is optics ready. So if you want to put an optic on it, you can. But I just love 1911s, and again, it's just been limited by round capacity, and now we have the best of both worlds. And I'll tell you, the beautiful finish on this gun is just, Kimber quality, which they do a great job with their finishing. That trigger pull. One thing too, because of the slide rails, it really mates up well with the frame. And that's one of the things, it just has that frame to slide contact. It just makes it really smooth. I'll tell you guys, I was looking forward to it, but I'm definitely not disappointed. All right, for disassembly, drop our magazine. Again, check the chamber. You want to bring your slide back, and this little crescent right here, you want to bring it back to the slide stop. So to really about right here. And you can see the little notch in your slide stop. Here on the other side, you can see where the slide stop comes through. You can start to push it, but I found that using a punch just brings that on out. Then we have the slide stop comes right out. Now, before you release the slide, make sure you have your hand over your recoil spring and guide rod system, and it just comes right off. Now here we have our recoil spring and guide rod. It's more of your standard guide rod with your recoil spring, but one of the things about this spring is it is the flat coil recoil spring. This tends to give you a lot better recoil management. And then we have a little plug. We have to pull it out from under the dust cover. And then drop your link on your barrel and then just bring it through the front. So it disassembles very similar to most of your 1911s. Here we have our stainless steel barrel, 4.09 inches. The fluting is beautiful. It's in 3 different sections. And then we have our deep dish crown, 20-degree crown, again preserving accuracy. And also we have our feed ramp, highly polished, and we had no issues at all, any kind of malfunctions at all at the range. And here you can see that flat recoil spring, and that's definitely something that I've seen in a number of different guns, and we're seeing it more and more because it does absorb the recoil actually a little better. I think it just spreads out the surface of the spring, and it, for some reason, now this is a 16.9 pound recoil spring, which is typical for a lot of your handguns. Fit and finish inside, absolutely beautiful. One thing about this type frame is it has a little bit of an extended rail compared to most of your polymer frame pistols, and so it gives you just a little bit more frame to slide contact. And then here on the interior, I mean, Kimber does a fantastic job with their firearms, and they really do a great job with their finishing. Now for reassembly, we're just going to take our barrel, take the barrel link, make sure it's in the down position, and put it through the front of the slide, and then bring it to the up position. We're going to take our plug for our recoil spring, go ahead and put it into place, and then take our recoil spring and guide rod, bring it in. Just want to fit it up next to the barrel lug, just like that. Next, you want to take this little link and you want to bring it down because you need to see it to put through your slide stop. Then take the slide and just bring it right over your rails. Now once I can see the barrel link coming through and it's opened up, I can go ahead and put in my slide stop. And then I bring my slide all the way back. And once I get it into place, that little notch in the right place, I'll lift up my slide stop, not bringing it all the way out, bring it around, making sure I'm lined up, and then just push it, just like that. You want to be careful because a lot of people scratch their frame by bringing it and letting it slide up. That's called the idiot scratch. You don't want that on your handgun. And then we're going to put in our magazine and test for function. And we're good to go. Now it comes with a really nice case. You have your front zipper pocket. Your lock usually comes in there. Then we have a separate pocket at the front for your magazines with the elastic loops. Then it comes with two padded pockets on either side. And here we've got, two firearms that you can put in there. And so I just had the 1911 and then the KDS9. And it has a nice grab handle, great for the range, a little bit more advanced than a lot of the bags. All right, the KDS9C, what makes it special? I mean, it's just another gun, 15 rounds. But it really comes in on the heels of the 1911, which has been so popular and is still so popular. The pointability, the ease of function, the single action trigger pull, the pointability, the 17-degree grip angle, the legendary performance of the 1911. And so we bring in, though, a 1911, and it's a aluminum body, which makes it lighter, but it's a double stack magazine. So it gives you those extra rounds. And Kimber's getting ready to release their 18-round magazine as well. So then you've got even more capacity. I mean, the 2011s, those are great, but they're really expensive. More expensive than even this handgun, especially the staccatos. And the Bull Armory really comes in a lot closer. But, you've got a polymer grip shell, and then you have an aluminum top. With this, you have a solid aluminum frame. Now, one of the things a lot of people say is with polymer, you get a little bit more recoil absorption through the grip and through the polymer. And I agree with that. But I will say that this gives you just a touch more weight, and yet it is a very tight slide to frame fit, which it glides a little better. And so to me, it's kind of one or the other. They're both great shooting handguns. I didn't feel that this had a lot of recoil. Plus, it gives it a little bit more weight, which is going to give you a little more recoil management. The high ride beaver tail, the undercut in the frame, the natural 17-degree grip angle, and then the bob. So all of that, and the trigger pull, of course, is way superior to any of your polymer frame striker fire pistols because it's so simple. So it's just a totally different firearm, and again, it just gives us a lot of choices. Now again, the Wilson EDC X9 came out, and it was an incredible handgun. But again, it was $3,210 retail. This is coming in at $1,499, which is less than half the price. And honestly, side to side, they're pretty much identical. I mean, there's some differences definitely with Kimber bringing this up, but for all practical purposes, they are pretty much the same style type gun. It is optics ready, and I will say that having to order a plate with the sights and all that, is a little more expensive, and that is one thing I would give it a little bit of a ding for. But, if you want to run with a red dot and you want those sights to be the suppressor height sights, then that's what you want. And so, you know, you can get that all in one package. And to be honest with you, a lot of times the sights run that already. And this is a proprietary sight by Kimber. Fully adjustable, windage elevation, and then you have your fiber optic front. And we don't have a Picatinny rail, which is going to be plus for some, minus for others. And so that's just a matter of preference. The grip is not super aggressive, but to me, it handled extremely well at the range. I never felt like there was any problem of not having a good, confident grip on the gun. Trigger pull's really nice. I mean, it's the 1911 trigger pull, around 4 pounds, which is great. And I really wouldn't want anything too much less than that for a defensive firearm. And I think, though, one of the things about the KDS9C is just the beauty of the gun. And it's got another appeal to it that kind of modernizes the 1911, yet it doesn't take away from the 1911 classic design look. So I think that's a huge positive. So overall, I think this is an excellent gun. And Kimber has really been coming on strong over the past few years and putting out just really beautiful firearms. So if you're a 1911 guy, or you're looking at the 1911, but you're kind of held back from that single stack magazine, low round capacity, check out the KDS9C, 15+1, and yet it has all those traditional controls of the 1911, which is legendary. And yet it doesn't go with that polymer aluminum mix. I mean, it's just a classic. And with Kimber quality and the finish of these handguns, I mean, they're just beautiful. And again, a big thank you to Kimber for sending the KDS9C for this review. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Whatever that is, I don't even know what it is, the staccato, but what was it before that? Thank you. Thank you, Robbie. Robbie, really appreciate that. The polymer guns, they're just a lot of the same, which is great. Guys, there are so many different options at this point, and most of the 2011s are really pretty expensive. The funny is the 10mm, okay, which served the U.S. military from 1911 to 1985. Aluminum polymer frame mixed on the frame. But yeah, I would really like to have seen a beaver tail. Let's do it again. Let's just do it.